Cool. So I'm doing another stream. Today I'm doing passive components, and I'm doing two of them because they're super simple, super fast to make. One of them doesn't have any power requirements or anything like that. The other one does, but just for some of the little lights that I put on it. But yeah, so we're doing so for those watching on Instagram, I'm also doing this on Twitch. The link for that is in my bio on Instagram. And on Twitch, I just have, the diagram. I have the Instagram live feed. And I have another overhead camera that I use in combination with the live stream. So two angles, one that you're seeing on Instagram, one that you get from above. But I'm just going to kind of hop into this. The first one that I'm going to build is called a Passive Attenuator. These are both sort of utility modules, so they don't like make sounds or anything. They're really just used for adjusting levels, adjusting the amount of voltage coming out of something, sort of things like that. So the first thing that we're doing is the Passive Attenuator, which is literally just, for those on Twitch, you can see the diagram is, it's just, I have a couple attenuators on here, but it's literally just this one circuit over and over again, which is two audio jacks and 100K potentiometer in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. And what these are used for, I have one on my modular unit as well. It's this black module right, oh, you can't see it. This black module right here is my passive attenuator on my modular unit. Basically what it's used for is adjusting the amount of voltage that's being passed through and going into, whatever the sort of end module is. So these analog circuits, they speak in the language of electricity. And so what these do is they basically say, like, it's kind of like a volume knob, but in line with your signal. So if you have like some CV, which is just a voltage in the range of like 0 to 5 volts, and you have it going to a filter, but you only want it to open like a certain percentage of the way. You don't want it to open up all the way because maybe the resonance is up or something, and you don't want it to make like really crazy squeaking noises. You want it to sort of make sound within a certain range. Passive attenuators are the way that you can sort of limit the range of whatever your signal is. And there's more advanced ones that are like, take power and have integrated circuits and do all sorts of like fancy bells and whistles. But for this one, I've seen ones that also like work with function generators and like have all sorts of like cool algorithms that get built in. But this one doesn't do any of that. This one is really just a super, super simple module. Really just meant to sort of limit and control the amount of voltage going in and out between modules. It's a really good unit when you're starting out and you're afraid of, say, sending too much voltage to one of your modules, or one of them isn't calibrated right and it's sort of clipping and it's making sort of strange noises when you're feeding the signal in. Maybe you're getting like a popping sound or some sort of clicking like that. You could throw one of these in line with your signal, sort of put it before you go into whatever your final destination is, and that'll help just, adjust how much is going in and out. But yeah, there's ones that, get power, and and we'll maybe have like a sitting voltage or something. These, if there's nothing plugged into the input, the output is basically just nothing. But there's ones that will take power and have like a standing, maybe like 5-volt output or something, so you could trim down from there. But this one's like actually already done. Like while I was talking just now, because it's so few components and they're all really big and simple. So this is already ready to go, and I'm going to start soldering it now. And then after this, we're going to switch over to this really big guy, which is a mixer, also a passive module. It does get power, but the power is just for the lights on board, so that it adds to it. I don't know if you can see the thing behind me, but this module at the bottom that I'm pointing to is the passive mixer, and it's got a bunch of lights on it from the power that we're feeding it. So I need to make sure I have the right potentiometers for everything. Yeah, cool. So my soldering iron is heating up. What else can I get ready? I'm going to get some lights out, some LEDs. I think this mixer is going to have some orange LEDs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Cool. Yeah, this is going to have some orange LEDs. I'm just going to leave these out for that. But yeah, the reason that I thought that these two modules would be good together is because they're both passive modules. I feel like if I did just one, like if I just did this attenuator, we'd be done in 10 minutes, and we've been live for 10 minutes, so we'd be done very, very soon. And I kind of like these being closer to like an hour. I feel like that's a pretty good length of time. But I don't really know. I don't really follow with like the logistics, like the sort of insights or statistics that come with, who watches this after the live stream. I feel like the thing with live streams is you kind of want to be there live so you can interact in like, the Twitch chat or like the Instagram live, which is why it's sort of like an interesting, I don't know, I think it's a really cool medium, like the live stream. And it's cool to see so many people kind of jumping onto that train during quarantine. I feel like I know a lot of people who became like gaming streamers during quarantine, and I don't know if that would have happened otherwise. Great. So this module is actually like already done. I'm just looking over all my soldering joints, and this one doesn't have LEDs or anything, so it doesn't need power. These are also reversible, so it can be either side. But for the big collage that I'm working on, I know that this is sort of like, I know this is the side that I need facing up. So, yeah, I think I'm just going to do a quick little demonstration with this one to sort of explain how it works using the modular unit. So I'm going to kind of pull this forward. I'm going to pull one of these off. I just got this one all wired up with the power. Just got this one wired all up with the power, so I was testing it out. and sort of playing around with the routing and signals and stuff. So I'm going to go, is this on? Cool. So basically it doesn't really matter which one we use as an input or an output because they're both pretty much the same. So I'm just going to plug one in here. Actually, I'll do first a sort of straightforward thing. So I'm going to have the clock from here modulate a filter, and then I'm going to put the output of the filter to the mixer, and then I'm going to put an oscillator into the filter. Whoa, this one is super bent. I think that's fine. Let's turn that up. Oh, it's unplugged. Cool. Cool, so really simple. Cool, so those who don't remember or haven't been on the other ones, like the way the filter works is it's a low pass filter. So it's basically filtering out all the high frequencies and it's just passing the lower frequencies, and you get something that sounds like this. And I'm just going to sweep through it. Something that sounds like this. So I don't know if you can hear that, but there's like the high frequencies. This is all the way up, high, and then this is all the way down, low. And so basically we just have the thing sort of like modulating it. But so let's hear that again. Maybe we don't want it to go all the way up. Maybe we only want it to go part way or something. And like there's no way to limit the level that's coming out of here. So maybe instead, like we're going to use this, which is going to let us adjust how much is coming out. So I'm going to put one input and take this. Actually, no, I'm going to take this. And now I'm just going to plug the output here. So you can hear that even though the signal is passing through and going there, nothing's happening until I start to turn this up. Unless, did I? No. Oh, I have it in the wrong one. So there's nothing, and then as I start to turn it up, now we're back at the full range again. But I can then take it and start to back it off. And maybe this is the range that I want. Maybe I don't want it going all the way up. Maybe I only want it going part way. And so I can do this and then sort of like have like a much more subtle like and so what I'm doing here is I'm taking the voltage language that's coming out of here, and I'm saying don't put out the full 5 volts, whatever is coming out of here. I think it's 10, or I think it's 7 volts is the max actually. And I'm saying limit it to maybe like a range of like 2 volts or something. And so you have something much more subtle versus something that's like, and then also nothing if I turn it all the way back down. So this is a really handy module. I use it a lot just for getting sort of my signals to be sort of like a little bit more subtle and a little bit more tuned in. Just because none of these modules are sort of quantized. They don't sort of exist in the same sort of sonic spectral range that like say a piano does. So piano is technically it's like a quantized signal. You have buttons that you can press that give you certain notes. Whereas with these modules, everything exists in a range. So you get like more of a sweeping of any variable frequency. And so it sometimes makes for like not very musical things like that. It doesn't exist in the same sort of scale, like harmonic scale as like traditional forms of making music. So yeah, that's the Passive Attenuator. Very handy module. I'm just going to kind of leave it. Where's my, here it is, yeah. I'm just going to kind of leave it there in the overhead. And now we're going to switch to my mixer. So I'm going to open up my mixer schematic. Oh, not this one. Cool. So that's going to take a second because it's a really big file. But in the meantime, I can sort of start looking this over. So this is a passive mixer, which is also known as like a summing circuit with audio inputs. Here we go. Cool. All right, sweet. Let's get this out of here. And for those on the Twitch, I'm just going to zoom in. Where's my mouse? Here it is. I'm just going to zoom in on one of these because it's repeating. Actually, I'll zoom in the middle so you can see. Yeah, it's basically just an audio jack, a potentiometer, and a resistor in line with each other. And it's repeated. For this one, it's 1, 2, I don't remember how many this is. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is a 16 input summing passive mixer. And like I said, even though it's passive, it does take power because it has some lights on board, which just like help me know if it's, running. Oh, we lost my overhead. What happened? Hold on 1 second. It's not a stream without a technical delay. Can we refresh that? Sorry about that. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're on. What's going on? Why are we on my computer? Sorry, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Like I said, I'm still pretty new to Twitch. Here we go. Oh, okay, we're back. Great. Cool. Yeah, so not really sure where I was there, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with the resistors. And there's a lot of them because in addition to being used for the sort of summing circuit, I also use them for the LEDs because the LEDs, if I put, this thing runs on 12 volts, if I put 12 volts into the LEDs, they'll just get fried. So I just put a little LED in line and that just keeps it from getting busted. But similar to the passive attenuator, there are powered mixers as well. And those are much better, like quality and everything. Passive ones sort of have like a biasing issue where, I don't know, other channels will sort of influence the overall output. So if you have them all turned down and you're just using like one channel and you plug it into one channel and you turn that one all the way up, as you turn other ones up, the overall level will start to rise of your output. And that's just because it's a very simple circuit that's not very high quality. It's like a very, very lo-fi way of sort of getting all of your signals compiled into like one output. And yeah, this can be, somebody in the last stream asked if something like this could be used for like drum triggers, which are basically just like gate signals. They're just sort of like on-offs. And it totally could. It would basically just, the same way that we can use this to combine the audio signals, which are, at their core, a voltage being sort of transduced at a certain rate and a certain frequency with certain shapes and values. So are like gated signals and like signals for like trigger inputs. They're just like much larger in size. They're at a much lower frequency. But yeah, I'm just putting in LEDs right now, or sorry, not LEDs. I'm putting in resistors. making sure that they're all facing the right way. Because these have to go on an artwork, and so I like having a little bit of control over like the little aesthetic of them, that little aesthetic. Because I feel like resistors are the most colorful parts that get put on the boards that are standalone. LEDs can be colorful if it's like, you know, this one has one. I normally do one type of LED per board to keep it cohesive. But that's just sort of like a formal decision. That's not really like, there's no function there. Whereas resistors, like the color pattern on them dictates their function. It dictates like what their value is. And so they sort of like, you know, on one board, I have one board that has like the VCAs that we made last time have like a bunch of really obscure values that all have like really brightly, beautifully colored resistors. I put these in backwards. But, oh, hey, Matt. Long time no see. Yeah, for those in the resistor. That's pretty good, Matt. That's pretty good. For those in the Instagram, I'm not sure. It's Matt and someone else. I'm also doing this on Twitch, which has like, it has the live feed from Instagram. My phone is just like mirrored to my computer. I have the diagram up, and I have an overhead camera that's sort of showing the top down. It's like, it's not necessarily closer, but it is a little bit better quality. And the link to my Twitch is just like in my Instagram bio. If anybody feels like switching over to that and checking it out. I tend to try and like not prioritize the Twitch over the Instagram, but I kind of like the Twitch format a little bit more. It's a little bit more sophisticated, so it's easier to sort of like see what's going on in the chat, and sort of like engage in people on there. Are you on another platform too? Yeah, I'm also on Twitch. Gonna drop a file. Oh, cool. Yeah, the Twitch I also do like I normally start the Twitch like maybe 5-10 minutes before I start the Instagram live, and I've been doing a lot of like patches on this program called this software called VCV Rack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which is like VCV Rack is basically like a virtual studio, but for modular unit, for like modular synthesizers. So you can build these like insane modular synthesizers that would cost like thousands of dollars in real life. But it's all totally free. It's really cool. So I normally do that, and then I'll like stream one of my patches for maybe 10-15 minutes beforehand. And a lot of them are just like really generative, or are just like very simple loops, and they'll just kind of like go and repeat for a while. So I try and do, I don't know, I also think that like I'm probably going to do at some point like a sort of live patching session with my modular unit. And I think for that, I probably won't do the Instagram live. I'll probably, or maybe I will, I don't really know. But I was thinking about just sort of like prioritizing the Twitch for that. TSC bad guy. Matt, is that you? Are you the one throwing, what is that, like a ghost Pepe in my chat? But yeah, there's a lot of resistors on this one, so I'm still chugging away. But we're almost there. Cool. Last 2 2 resistors. And I'm going to just sort of tack these all down with my soldering iron. And I'll put some LEDs in, get some potentiometers going, and we will be close to being done. This is probably going to be a shorter session. If there's time at the end, maybe I'll sort of do a little demo on the piece that I've been working on, which is kind of sitting behind me. It's that one that's like blinking up against the wall. A lot of my cables are at my apartment, so I won't be able to do something too in-depth, but I can maybe go over like the repeating pattern that this board is made up of, or the collage is made up of. It's very simple. It's very large too, which I'm very excited about. It's getting pretty close to being done. I'm just working on the frame right now, which is like, it's a lot of woodworking, which I really enjoy, but it's real hard. It's woodworking. It's like, I don't know. I feel like you got to be really good at it. You got to know something. Otherwise, it's just like it takes a really long time. Whereas circuit boards, it's just like very intuitive and it's very quick. And sort of the reason why I got interested in using circuit boards was so that like, because the alternative to circuit boards, if you want to make circuits, is you either make a PCB by hand, which takes forever and it's like an insanely laborious process, which you might have to then get etched, like if you want to etch it, or using a solderless breadboard, which is like for sticking all these jumpers in. They're very fragile at the end. So getting into circuit boards and having them sort of made like this really opened up the possibilities of having like one module on repeat and sort of make like a ton of one type, or like a ton of a bunch of different things. So you kind of get into like a factory mode of production where you can make like the one behind me has 2, 4, 6, it has 8 filters, 8 oscillators. Another one I'm working on is going to have like another 8 oscillators, and also each oscillator has a triangle and a saw wave output. So it ends up being more like 16 different like waves, voice shaped things that you can work with. So yeah, it's just a sort of easy, fast way to get like a bunch of different things up and running so that you can start creating a ton of different like soundscapes. Cool. All the resistors are all set now. So I'm going to throw in some little LEDs. So I think on this one, the resistors, I'm going to check, but I think the resistors are reversed on the circuit board. I want to make sure I get them right. Yeah. They're reversed everywhere. Yeah, they're all reversed, so I got to just put them in backwards. Yeah, I get all these boards made in China, and so it takes a really long time for them to get here, and the turnaround on getting circuit boards made is pretty long. It takes a couple weeks after I send them my files, so after I design everything and like send off like the final finished thing, it'll still take a while, and they tend to not like my files. We tend to always have to have like a conversation about them because my files are really big or they're really dense or something. So then that adds a couple days. Just because, I don't know, they're not used to like, I feel like these are not really functional. I don't know. I don't really know why it is. They always have a problem with something. But it just takes a while. And so for this one, it came in after I think like 2 iterations, and the LEDs were backwards somehow. I put them in backwards at some point and maybe reverted to an older file or something. I'm not really sure how it happened, but to me, LEDs being backwards is not cause enough to, because it's not something you ever notice. It's just something you have to remember when you're building it. Otherwise, none of them will work, because LEDs are polarized, which means they have a positive and a negative. So they have to go in a certain way. And if you don't, then they'll either just not work or they'll get fried and then they will never work. Yeah, for this one I sort of decided that backwards LEDs wasn't that big of a deal. Cool. Those are all in, so I'm just going to solder them in place. All right, sweet. Oh, I missed one. Here we go. Solder these in place. Just kind of tack them down. Trim them off. So I'm right now in the process of building, that's not like what I'm literally building right now, but just in my studio in general, I'm in the process of building like a series of these really big, one of them is behind me on the Instagram Live, series of these really large circuit board collages that are part of this series called Untitled Sound Systems. And I'm right now in the process of making an edition of like 4 or 5 that I'm trying to do like a release with, like sort of drop them all at once. And so I've just really been building circuit boards like nonstop for like a month now. I have a box of them sitting over there behind the circuit board. And I don't know, I'm starting to make, a lot of the circuit boards that I've been making for this series are going to be for a potential 5th piece. But we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to get to that, because I kind of want to get it all done by the end of the month. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm getting pretty close. I've been working on the frames, which always takes the most time, honestly. Just because the frames need to be sort of like abstract shapes and they're all right angles. They need to meet very precisely. I'm not really a trained woodworker. I mean, I do a lot of woodworking, but I would not call myself like a trained carpenter in any way, shape, or form. So it's a lot of just like learning, and right now everything is like got wood putty on it. Just kind of drying. I'm going to go in and sand it sometime this weekend. But hopefully I'll have something to share in a couple weekends. Have a good night. All right, so everything is soldered in now. I just went in and tacked up the rest of my joints. Now I'm just going to start putting the potentiometers in, which are going to be what let us control the volume of the signals, or like the levels, I suppose. If you were to use these for like logic signals or something other, or even CV, I think you could. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to just sort of like combine. I haven't really done it just because I haven't really tried to do some sort of sonic thing that combined multiple CV inputs, which is just control voltage. But I feel like that would work exactly the same. Ooh, I am tired. It is Thursday, and I'm tired. I've been here all day, really hustling to get these pieces done. I think this is going to be the first. I think this is probably the first series that I'm going to like be sort of like releasing all at once on this platform that I use called Art Fair, which is a really cool little platform that's been growing a lot. It's cool to see them kind of getting a lot of more attention, and it's sort of like up and coming artists. It's sort of a platform to sell art, similar to like Artsy or other websites that sell like collections or editions from artists. But where Artsy and these other websites are for like very famous, very expensive artworks, Art Fair is for like, artists that are working and living right now, of all sort of ages and backgrounds and price ranges, which is nice too. I always go back and forth with like wanting to, I don't know, it's I feel like it's really hard pricing art. I always like find a hard time being like, oh, like this should cost a lot of money and be a very expensive thing because, I put a certain amount of hours in and, I need to value my time in a certain way. And I also need to pay rent and do all these like real person things. But I also like love the idea of like my friends owning my art or, people of my class owning my art. Because I think that there are aspects of class embedded in like all art that maybe not can only be appreciated by the class that it was made in, but it to some degree is aware of the class that it's made in. And you can see that with art that's made that's like, I don't know, I don't really love, I really don't like his work, but it's a decent example is like Jeff Koons' work. His work is meant to look like nobody's ever touched it, and it just sort of came out of some sort of massive industrial process. And it's kind of true to an extent. I mean, I know he has like a pretty serious like factory style team that just like manufactures his work, and he makes so much money that I'm sure his space is massive and impressive and whatever, but like it's meant to look a certain way, to be owned by certain people in certain places, and look like nobody's ever touched it. Whereas a lot of other art that comes from different backgrounds, it's much more about like the hand and the labor that goes into it. Yeah, I don't know. I think this kind of goes back and forth between both because the frames that I put these in are like very, very handmade. And if you look really close, you'll see the places where things get soldered and the places where my iron sits a little too long and burns the circuit board a little bit. But from a glance, like,
these are made in factories in a very, very industrial process that can only exist in like this insane, globalized capitalist society that we live in. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. Just a thought. Where'd that go? Great. So I'm just about done with this, all the components. Yeah, it's just kind of like a repeating circuit over and over again. This one's for the Twitch. You can kind of see it on there. You can't really see the pattern, which I don't love, but anyway. So I'm gonna solder this up now, and then we'll put some power on it, and we'll see if it lights up. I can do a little demonstration with it, see how it sums all the things together, and I can kind of show the pros and cons of using a passive mixer versus like an active mixer, which takes power. Might be a little too subtle for Twitch, but we'll see. The main thing is just sort of like the biasing that happens sometimes where, if you have them all turned down and you plug one thing in and turn it all the way up, it's going to be a little bit more quiet than if you had them all turned up all the way. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain. All right, I'm gonna take a second. I'm gonna drink some water. I'm big parts. It's not warm in here, but just sitting over an iron all day. Most days I go from not doing very much talking. If I'm in my studio, I say almost nothing all day, and then if I work for an artist as like a part-time day job, and if I'm working at her studio, I also don't really say much during the day, and then to go from saying almost nothing all day to then talking for an hour, it always leaves me parched. Yeah, I'm not really sure how many people are in the chat. It's sort of not really telling me. I can't really see what the number is, but I'm just going to kind of keep plugging the Twitch channel until it gets more popular, I think. And then maybe I can do it like more seriously. I don't know, not more seriously, but like I don't know, it gets more of a following or something. But yeah, I'm doing this also on Twitch. On Twitch, I also have like the circuit up. I have a second overhead camera, and the link to my Twitch channel is in my bio on my Instagram profile. Yeah, so I'm doing passive components right now for those who are just hopping in. And I'm doing both of them together just because the first one was super fast. It was done in the first 15 minutes. And the second one is also very simple. It's just like one thing repeated over and over again.
So it's really easy to make. And they both sort of serve the same function. One of them just sort of, limits one signal. The other one limits multiples, or controls the amount for like multiple signals. So this is a mixer that controls multiple inputs for one output, and then the one that we did before was a passive attenuator, which controls, the amount for one input and one output. But yeah, I think next stream I'm probably either going to do an envelope generator. I think I said I was going to do an envelope generator this time. I don't really remember. But I didn't. We're doing passive components just because I kind of needed something easier this week. But yeah, maybe envelopes next week. Or I don't know. I was thinking about maybe doing like a sort of live plug and play session and like start a patch from scratch on my modular system, because I've been getting a lot of requests for like sound demos on that. So maybe I'll do that next. I'm kind of waiting. I have a couple studio visits that I'm supposed to do in my studio, virtually and in person. And so I'm kind of waiting to do those before I bring this modular unit back to my apartment to do a sort of live session. Good morning. What do you mean, good morning? All right, what do I need now? I need power. So let me pull up my... I also have a window with my... What is going on? Why isn't this... There we go. With my Eagle files on the Twitch. And those of you who are on here, you can see that this is what the software looks like. So it's ground, positive on the left, negative on the right. Cool. Let's put some power on here. See if these lights light up. I also think this one just needs positive and ground. Which means I can also just power it with a regular old power supply. Which I think I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, so the other circuits, they all take plus minus 12 volts because of the sort of like fancy ICs. Not fancy, they're very simple and very basic ICs, but because the ICs in them require a 24 volt power differential. But this one, the only thing that's powered on here is the lights, and the LEDs don't need that much power, so I can just run this off of your regular old 12 volts DC. I'm just going to get these in here, solder them down. There we go. All right. Cool. I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to trim this. And going to get my power supply. Everything is all kind of hooked up. Ooh. Behind. Got a very particular wire situation going on here with a screw on the wall to keep everything kind of up and leveled. For those that were on last time and saw all my... Oh man, I knocked my camera out again. Dang. Got this really janky setup. Yeah, as I was about to say that my setup is improving, my camera goes out. All right, that's the wrong one. Let's go. Okay, we're back. Very nice. Yeah, so this time I tried to do a little bit less janky of a phone setup and have my phone hooked up to my thing that I normally use to hold my boards, sort of just like a soldering station type thing. But because of that, I don't have something here. So I'm just going to hold this guy up, but I got to strip him first. We're going to go up to 12 volts. 9, 10, 11, 12. Sweet. All right, so I'm going to hold this guy up. Very nice. There you go. It's pretty good. So the LEDs working means that we know that this is properly getting power. And because there's no, I mean, it doesn't really matter on here because it's a passive board other than the LEDs, but it's just kind of nice to know that the basic connections are kind of working. So now what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm just going to kind of put him down. Technically, we don't need it plugged in to do a demo, but I think I'm going to leave it plugged in until I can't leave it plugged in or it gets in the way or something. Cool. Cool. Get some of this stuff out of the way. So I'm going to move this big cup of water away from all the electronics. And now I'm going to, so on my modular unit, I don't know if you can see, but this red module right here at the end is my mixer. So right now I do have something plugged in there, but I'm going to unplug it. And I'm basically just going to plug it into here instead. So we have, these are all inputs, all of these jacks. So I can put it into anything. I'm going to put it in this first one just because. And there's no sound because it's turned all the way down. And then yeah, so you can kind of hear, yeah, so even though there's nothing, this is what I was saying about the biasing, like, even though there's nothing plugged into this one, like, because the channel's turned down, like, if we listen to how quiet it is, and then I'm going to turn up the volume all the way up, you can hear that it increases a little bit, even though it's not, like, there's nothing going through there, it's just sort of like a biasing thing. So this is really good for sort of like lo-fi, very simple mixing, one thing going in, kind of just bashing it together. I'm going to put this guy down. I'm going to figure out why. Why is it? Oh, yeah. So now I'm just going to plug another oscillator in. So you can hear it's kind of clipping a little bit because it's like, it's really just a gnarly thing. Like, it's good for like, I don't know, I like having them all kind of like a mid-level. It's got some character to it for sure. I like having them all at kind of like a mid-level and then just using the amp to sort of like beef it up. I also like using voltage controlled amplifiers, which will like basically turn things on and off. Like I'll show you that, which was the thing that we made last time. I don't know if anybody is keeping up with these in order, but it's gonna have an output. I'm just gonna go like this. Oh, that's not what I want. So you can kind of hear that clipping that's happening. That like clicking, sorry, clicking, not clipping. Or I don't know if that'll show up, but that's kind of it coming from here. And that just means that the levels are kind of off. And so what I can do is I can take our attenuator that we just made, and I can put one input here, and I'm going to say that's going to go in here now. And I can adjust it a little bit. And kind of get some of the clipping away. Again, like they're both passive components, so they're kind of gnarly, but like you get the idea. So I'm actually, just for demonstration purposes, going to put this back. Just kind of play around for a little bit. For this one, now I'm putting the same oscillator in, but now I'm putting the triangle wave in instead. Or is it the square? That's the square wave. Now I'm going to take, I think just for fun, I'm going to kind of throw some other stuff in here for demonstrations purposes. I'm going to throw a sample and hold module in, which is just going to add a little bit of like a generative randomness to it. I'm going to put some noise in, which is going to be our source. Oh, that's why. Couldn't figure out why that wasn't working. Yeah, there you go. There's a mixer, there's a passive component, another passive component. And I think that's pretty good. We're kind of right at an hour. This is kind of the shortest one, but otherwise I'm just going to be playing on this thing. It's not really about the components anymore. Let me turn this down. Oh, I can turn it down here on the mixer. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back hopefully next week, fingers crossed, with another build, probably envelopes. But we will see. Great. Have a good night.